Hello there everyone, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make this Rosebud macrame ring. And this is what mine looks like. So what we can see here is the main feature of the ring is these little rosebuds. So we kind of have a little cluster of them. And then along the sides we then go into the ring band, which is also quite decorative. And it's one complete ring. And then it can look a little something like this on. So you have that cluster of the rosebuds as a feature. Sits nicely on the finger, and it's also really nice and comfortable to wear because it's all made of cord, so obviously it molds to your finger nicely. So this is what it looks like. Now I previously made a bracelet with these rosebuds and that looks like this. You can see I've used similar colours, so what I wanted to do was kind of make a ring so you could always use the ring to match the bracelet. Obviously if you want to make them in similar materials, so you can make a set out of it. So this is the ring for it. I already have a tutorial for the bracelet, feel free to check that out. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to make the ring for it, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here I have my cord. Now this is a 0.4mm s-lon, and I'm just using these 3 different colours in this kind of graduated tone effect. You can easily use just one colour if you want to, that's completely up to you. And then I'm using these 2mm round silver metal spacer beads. Now you just need some really small beads where your cord will be able to fit through the holes. So you could also easily use something like seed beads. That's completely up to you. So let's get all the materials ready and let's get started. And then we need some lengths of our cord. So what I have here first of all is 6 lengths of about 60 centimeters each of this lighter color of mine. Now this is a color that I want to run in the middle of the ring and also be the ring band. And then we need another 6 lengths of the 2 other colours that I'm using here of about 25 centimeters each. So I have 6 lengths of the medium colour and then 6 lengths of the darker colour as well. So these aren't going to be used as much, that's why they're shorter. So then what I've done is I've taken all the lengths of cord here and tied them together in a knot. As you can see, the 2 darker colours, the short cords originally, I've just left a short little tail there. And then of the longer cords, which in my case are the lightest ones, I've left a tail of about 15 centimeters. Now what we're going to do is go back after we made the middle part of the ring and the main part, and then use these tails here to make 1/2 of the ring band. But we're going to start out with all the cords here underneath this knot and make the main part of the ring. So now I took all my cords here and attached them onto my project macrame board that I'm going to be working on, and I just put some T-pins down through that knot just to hold it in place for now. Then I have all the lengths that I'm going to be using down here. Now what I'm going to do first of all is separate out my cords. If you're just using the same colour of cords, you just need to pick out 6 of them. It doesn't matter which ones really. But I'm just going to separate them because obviously I have these different colours. So I want to make sure I kind of put them into the groups that I'm going to be using them in. So now that I've separated out the cords, what I'm left with is these 6 lengths that are the longest ones. And in my case the light colour that we want to start with, that's going to be in the middle there. So what I then just want to do is split them in half, so kind of have 3 going towards each their own side. Then I'm going to grab 2 from the middle, so like this, and then we need to start making some knots. And we're basically going to be using double half hitches throughout. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to take the right one of the 2 and cross it over the left one, so the left one comes underneath, and that means the left one is the first working cord, while the other one that crosses over is the first holding cord. And that means using that working cord I'm going to make a double half hitch, so I'll go around my finger and back through the loop, so underneath that holding cord again, and then you can see here the working cord now loops around the holding cord in this kind of reverse 6, and then I tighten this all the way up, and then we do it again to get the double half hitch, and then tighten that. And then this working cord is naturally coming out towards the right side. Then I'm going to grab the next cord from the left and then bring it underneath the same holding cord, and then make another double half hitch, and then tighten that right after the previous knot. So you can see we're kind of then going to be building a row there of knots sitting right after each other, and that's now also coming out towards the right side. And then I take the final one from the left there and just repeat the same thing. And as I'm tightening these knots, I make sure that I hold the holding cord kind of out to the side but at an angle, so not straight out like this, because how you hold your holding cord when you tighten knots determines the direction that the row will go in. So there we go, tighten that. You can see, let's get that out of the way, we have all the cords coming out from those knots towards the right side now. And so then I'm just going to go back to the very first one of those three that we made a knot with. Separate the others out of the way for now. And then this is still going towards the right, so it's naturally coming over to this right side. And it's going to be the holding cord for this side. So that means I'm going to first take one cord that we haven't used yet on the right side here, bring it underneath. And then basically do the same thing. We just swapped hands now because it's on the opposite side that we're working. That means the cord that's coming underneath, we make our first double half hitch. And tighten that, and then that row of knots is going to start forming after the first one we made in that little corner, like that. Take the last cord left, bring it underneath the holding cord, and then make a double half hitch with that. And on this side here we also need to hold the holding cord in the same direction as the other side, but obviously just going towards the opposite side like this. So we end up with this little corner up here, pretty much getting a 90-degree angle between the two rows. And then we have the two holding cords going out to each their own side, and these four working cords kind of wanting to cross over each other right there in the middle. So then, because we just made that row on the right side here, I'm going to go back to the first cord that we used to make a knot with on that right side, and then just separate the other one out to the same side again there. And this is naturally wanting to come over the two working cords coming from the row on the opposite side there. So that means that's going to be the next holding cord. So just take the first one out of these two, make sure you grab the first one, it's coming underneath, that's going to be a working cord, and all we do is make another double half hitch with that, and tighten that, and now we also have a natural angle already, so just make sure this row of knots is going to be right underneath the first one, so they're nice and close to each other, and then grab the next one, and do another double half hitch, and tighten that. You can see we now have those two rows right next to each other, and then we need to move from the left side here to go to the right side again to make another row. So separate out the first one or the last one there, and then go back to the one in the inner corner that's now naturally coming over towards the right and over the one that's going to be the working cord on this right side. So bring that through underneath, and then just make a knot with that, which is then going to be the row, the equivalent row on this side here. Just making that one knot though. You can see that's then right next to the other row that we've already made. So we now basically have two rows of knots right next to each other on either side. And we are then left with the two cords right there in the middle that are then naturally wanting to cross over each other. So what I'm going to do is we basically need to make another row, but it's going to be the very middle of the rosebud. So I'm taking the right one again over the left one, and that means the left one is going to be the working cord that's crossing under and becoming kind of on the right side here. So I just make another double half hitch, and you can see that tightens underneath the last one, just like that, and that's another little row there. So then to make the other half of the rosebud, what I'm going to do is again just start on the left side here. Then I'm going to take the first one, that's also the cord we just used for that middle point, and then take the middle one. Now we need the first one here to go underneath the middle one, because that's then going to be a working cord. And basically what we need to do is continue the middle row on this side here, but it needs to curve around and come back to the middle. So we're just going to make another double half hitch, and then as I'm tightening this as well, I'm going to start holding this holding cord more in towards the middle again. Tighten that. That's also going to cage in that midpoint nicely, that middle row, kind of little mini row that we made. Another one to make it the double, and you can see there we then get that nice curve on the row. And then what I'm going to do is swap to the other side and do the exact same thing. So just the two you just used, put them a bit out of the way, and then take the first two from the bottom here. So the bottom one of those three on the right side, and then also the middle one. And we need to do the exact same thing. So that means the one from the middle there goes underneath the middle one out of the three, and we need to make a double half hitch to continue that row, but again bring it in towards the middle so that gets a curve as well, just like that. So you can see there these two rows are now wanting to start meeting up in the middle, and that's exactly what we want them to do. So I'm going to take my left one underneath the right one, and then that's the working cord, and then just make a double half hitch, and basically that closes those two rows together, tightens up the gap, but also creates a little point down there. So we have our little curves on the side, and then obviously we have still some loose cords on the side because we basically need to repeat now, but with the outer cords. So again, I just start on my left side, I bring the top outer cord there down over the others, because that's going to be the holding cord in this row, and we just need to continue this row but also make it curve just around the inner one that we just made, and just take the first cord, make a double half hitch with it, tighten that, and you should naturally follow the curve of the other one, obviously assuming you're holding the holding cord in the right direction, and then take the next one here pointing towards the left and tighten that. So again, we're moving down towards what's going to be the point, like that. Repeat on the other side, so take the very outer one or the top one that we haven't used yet on this side, bring it down over the other two, make a double half hitch to continue that row and get the curve into it, and moving away down towards the end of the other side. And then basically what we're going to do is what we just did in the first little one in the inner part, is we also just got to connect the two rows together. So again, I cross my right one over my left one, and then just make a double half hitch in the exact same way. And then you can see that's now the first complete rosebud. So now to continue to make the next rosebuds, what I'm going to do is again work on one side at a time. So I'm just going to start on my left one, doesn't really matter which one you start on, but I'm just going to kind of put the other three out of the way on the right side, and then bring the three from the current rosebud there that we just made downwards, and then I'm going to release the next cords that I want to use. So again, this is the next color there, so that's kind of the medium, the middle color. Get them ready. I have 3 of them on this side, and I then bring them down, so we now have 6 again on this side to make the next rosebud, just a little bit down from the previous one and next to it. And then it's pretty much the same technique to make the rosebud here, but I'm just going to show you how to start. So we have those 3 coming up from the rosebud towards the left. So first of all, we need to take the top one out of those 3, or the outer one, and just put the other 2 out of the way for a bit. And then we need to attach all of these new cords onto that to make the first row. So this is going to be the holding cord, the one coming from the rosebud. So I just take one of the other ones at a time, bring it underneath the holding cord, put the others there just out to the side, get them out of the way. And then we need to attach all these again by using a double half hitches to make the first row. So around your finger and through the loop, and then you basically just want to hold this holding cord in the natural angle that's coming out from the first rosebud. You can see there. So it's going to come out and end up coming in the same direction as we did that first corner to make that first rosebud. And then grab the next one, bring it underneath. So again, we're just building a row here with knots after each other. And the final one, bring it underneath and make the last knot in this row for now. You can see we have a row coming out there just from the side of that first rosebud. Now these 3 working cords that we just used are now naturally coming over towards the right and going over the other 2 that are coming out from the rosebud. So I'm just going to grab the first one, separate out the inner one there, closest to the rosebud, and the other 2 we can just kind of get out of the way a little bit. And that one is naturally going over these 2 coming from the rosebud like we want. So that's going to be the holding cord. The other 2 here that are coming underneath, wanting to go over towards the left, are going to be the working cords. So to make the row on this side, just make a double half hitch, and this just needs to lay as close as possible to this side of the rosebud. Take the next one. You can see this is going to end up then being the top of this rosebud, laying right next to the bottom of the previous one, and that's how they're going to be connected. So there we go, that's the row on this side, the equivalent to the one that we just made on the other side. And then otherwise, the rest of this is just making the rosebud in the same way that we did in the first one. So you go back, grab the first one of the 2 working cords that you just used, the one that's closest to the corner, that goes over the other two on the left that are coming underneath, and then you just use one at a time to make this row here. That's going to then lay right underneath the previous one on this side, like that, and the last one. And then once you've done this, you swap to the other side again, make the equivalent row on that side, and then obviously make the middle and make the other half of the rosebud in the exact same way that I showed you in the very first one. So then once you finish that rosebud there, you can see they're kind of sitting a bit off from each other, and also I've just added some more pins to hold my work in place. You can always do that along the way. It's going to make it easier to work with. So what we need to do now is make this, but on the other side of the initial one. So again, I'm going to get down the 3 cords coming from that rosebud, but going towards the right side. And I just want these other ones out of the way. So I'm just going to kind of pin them in place so they don't keep annoying me. And then we need to also release the other 3 cords that we need. So the equivalent ones to the ones we used on the left. So that's again that middle color. So we're going to start this one in the exact same way. All we're doing differently is obviously we're working on the other side, so that means it's going to be the same way but just kind of in a mirrored image. So again, I'm going to take the very top one or outer one, or the ones coming from the rosebud, and that's going to be the holding cord, and then we need to connect all the other ones to that so we create that first row. So basically we're just starting out making the first row but on the opposite side of the rosebud, but it doesn't really matter, they're going to end up looking pretty much the same anyway. So you just attach them all here again, one at a time, building up that row until we used all of those 3. And then all you do is the same thing, you kind of just swap from side to side, making a row on one side at a time. So I made this one now, then you'd go back to the very first one out of them that's coming naturally over the 2 left coming from the rosebud, and then you make a row there. So you can see that's exactly what we did on the other side. So all you do is continue this swap from side to side and then create this full rosebud as well. So then once you complete that rosebud as well, what we have is the very first one that we made, and then we have one on kind of either side but just below. And then what we need to do is now make the next row of the rosebuds. So again, first of all, I've just separated out the outer cords on either side, so the 3 outer ones. Then I'm left with the 3 on either side in the middle. So 3 are coming from each rosebud there and wanting to naturally cross over each other. We're then going to use these 6 cords to make the next rosebud. It's going to be right in the middle. And basically again, it's just the exact same technique. So just like we made the first one, except the cords are already in the piece obviously. So I just take the 2 very middle ones coming from either side, then I cross my right one over my left one, and then you just start making the next row here. Again, make sure that the rows lay as close to the previous ones from the other rosebuds as possible, so they lie nice and close together. And you just use the exact same technique to make this rosebud here in the middle. So then we have the middle rosebud in place there. Then what I'm just going to do is take these cords that I used for it out of the way again, because then we need to make the ones on the side, and just one side at a time again. So first of all, we need to bring down the other 3 from that left rosebud here, opposite obviously the 3 that we used for the middle one. But then we need to bring in the last 3 cords that we haven't used yet. So that's also the last color if you're using different colors there. So the darkest ones in my case. And on this side, you just want to make this rosebud now in the exact same way as the second one. So the one kind of right above it. So start doing that, and then the other side, once you've made that, you go to the other side and do the exact same thing as the second one down on this right side here. And once you've done that, we have that complete row, and then we're going to end up with 3 rosebuds right next to each other. So now that I made all 3 rosebuds there in the middle, this is going to be the widest row. So with the 3 rosebuds, and then now what we're going to do is kind of graduate downwards again. So that means you go to the next row, and that is going to basically be the same as the one just above. That's going to have 2 rosebuds. So that means we're going to use these 6 cords, 3 from the middle one. This is kind of on the left side, going towards the left, and then 3 from the left one going towards the right. We're going to use these 6 lengths for the rosebud that's going to fit right there. On the other side, we're going to use the other 6 that again are in between those 2 rosebuds next to each other. And otherwise you just make the rosebuds in the exact same way with the same technique. So you're going to have 2 here, and then after you made them, we're going to then have a space in the middle. We want to make 1, so we're going to use the 6 middle cards once we've made these 2 here. Obviously they're going to look a bit different, but then we're going to make that middle one, which is going to be the same as the very first one. So we get this kind of diamond effect of the shape with all the rosebuds together. So now that I made the last rosebud down there, you can see we have this little cluster, you can almost call it, and it creates this diamond shape. So this is the main part of the ring in the middle. So now what we need to do is start making the ring band. So I've also taken away, I'm just going to continue working on the same side here for now, taking away all the darker colored cards, and I'm just left with these 6 that are coming out from that very last rosebud. So we need to use them now to make the 1/2 of the ring band with. And this is also where I want to get in my little 2mm rounds, because I want to add them basically along the ring band. So before I make any more knots right now, I just want to add my first few beads. So I'm just going to separate my cords out. I'm going to take the outer cord on either side, or the top one, however you want to look at it. And then I need to add 1 bead to either of these cords here. And then let it drop all the way down the cord on that side. Then I'm just going to add my bead to the cord on the other side as well straight away. And then I also let that drop all the way down. So we now have 1 on each side here on the outer ones. And then I'm just going to start going to the left side here. So I take the outer cord with that bead on. Then what I want to do is bring that underneath the next one in. So the middle one out of the 3 on this left side. Bring it underneath there, and then that is the working cord. So I bring this around and basically make a double half hitch. And what you want to make sure to do as well is, now that you're making this knot and as you're tightening it, make sure that that bead stays on the outside of the holding cord. So basically when you tighten it, it's going to create that little place where the bead sits in that corner between the rosebud and then the section that we're making now. So another one here to make it a double half hitch, and then that traps that bead in place. Then I take the working cord, bring it underneath the next holding cord, the 3rd one on this side here, and then do another double half hitch. So you can see we kind of create these 2 little rows right next to each other. And then we just want to go to the other side now straight away and do the same thing, but obviously just kind of mirrored because we're working on the other side. I've already added the bead, so I just bring the cord underneath the next one, make sure that bead stays on that outer corner, and then I make my double half hitch in the exact same way, bring it underneath the next one after that, do another knot. So again we get those 2 little kind of mini rows just created by 1 knot for now, sitting right underneath each other. And this one I'm also going to bring it under the next one, which is actually the cord that we used on the opposite side. We obviously just got to connect the 2 sides here in the corner. So just make another knot with these. So again we have 3 cords going to each their own side. So what I'm then going to do is kind of finish off these rows, the ends of them, by framing them in a little bit. So again I'm just going to start on the left side, go to the outer one, and then I bring that over the other 2. And we're going to do half hitches again, double half hitches rather, with 1 cord at a time, but this time we're now on this side, instead of coming outwards with the row, we're now going to go in the opposite direction. So the one that's coming underneath, the working cord, we tighten that. So actually we're going to make a row underneath the little rows that we made first of all, kind of framing them in like that. You can see it comes around and then straight underneath here. Take the next one, going out to this left side, like that. Then we'll go straight to the other side and do the same thing. Take the outer one first, bring that over the other ones, to then make a double half hitch with each of these cords one at a time, working your way down towards the middle there, that point. So we now have these 2 in the middle meeting up, and we're just going to continue using that last one as well to kind of make a little point here and finish off this section. And we'd end up with 3 going to either side once more. And then to start the next section here, it's pretty much going to be the same way we make it, but what I just want to do first of all is get rid of some more cords just to kind of make it a bit graduated in the look. and make the actual ring band that's going to go around the rest of the finger a bit smaller. So I'm going to take the outer cord on either side away. So basically we now only have these 4 cords left. One thing I'm also going to do straight away is the 2 outer ones, so the one on each side, I'm just going to add a bead to each of them. And once I've added the beads here, we just start making this little section in the exact same way as the one I just showed you. The only difference is we have 2 cords less to work with, so that's 1 cord less on either side. Otherwise we just start in the same way, bring the cord with the bead underneath the second one and use it as a first working cord. You can see again that bead gets trapped in the corner. On the other side, do the same thing to make your little row. And then straight away, we're in the middle, where we then just continue to make that little point. And then we need to kind of frame in the section by bringing the outer cord. I'm just going to start on the left side, over the other one, and then make a double half hitch with that. And on the other side, bring the outer one over them, and then make a double half hitch with the cord coming underneath again. So we kind of frame off those rows nicely. And right in the middle, we just continue to make that point. And then that's what the next section looks like. So now what I'm going to do is continue just using these 4 cords here to make the rest of the ring band. Now obviously you also need to determine how large you need your ring to be, so how long you need to make these pieces, because what we're going to do is make the 1/2 of the ring band here, then flip our piece around, and then just use the cords, those 6 lengths of the middle colour there, to make the other half of the ring band. And obviously you want it to be even, so when they go around your finger and meet in the middle, it's going to create the full ring band together, and we're going to attach them together. So you might want to kind of try it out along the way. So I'd maybe recommend making 2 of these little sections, then flip your piece around and then make the same. So obviously start with the first one and then graduate downwards to the smaller ones here, make the same amount, and then try it out on, say, either your finger or a ring mandrel to see how it fits. If the ends meet up nicely with the size you want, then you have the perfect size and length there. If it's obviously too small, you need to make some more of those little sections until it fits perfectly. So I now made both sides here, and I've ended up with a length that's going to fit the size I want my ring to be. Now what I just want to mention regarding sizing, what I've found is I kind of like to count the little sections on the ends there to kind of know the size. Personally, what I found is that about 2 of the small sections there, so those first 2 after the larger first section, that's going to make about a UK size N. So it's going to be pretty average, and obviously the same on both sides, and fit nicely, so you get that average size in the ring. But obviously otherwise you just kind of measure it and adjust it according to what you need. And then obviously, as you can see, this is just a flat piece, so what we need to do is make this into the ring by kind of bringing these 2 ends together. And we also have all these cords left, so it's a bit of a mess right now. You can choose to go in and finish them off now if you need to kind of have it a bit less messy. But personally I like to wait, because we just need to use these cords on the end to connect the 2 sides. And obviously you can finish them off, I just like to wait until I've connected them just to make sure I don't finish off the wrong ones. So I'm just going to leave them on for now and just show you how we connect the 2 ends of the ring band together to get the complete ring. So I'm kind of just going to let all these excess cords hang down to kind of try and have them out of my way. And then I'm going to focus on the ends of the ring band. So basically what we need is the points there to meet up right opposite each other, and we obviously need to connect them so it becomes a complete piece. So I'm going to use the cords right at the tip to do that. So what we also have is 2 cords going out to each their own side on either end, you can see there. Then I'm just going to do one side at a time. So first of all, what we have here from this bottom one, I have this cord right at the tip. So I'm working on this right side now. Then I want to lay that across the top of the ones on this same right side here, but on the top end one. And then I'm going to grab the cord from that top end that's at the point, and that goes underneath it. So it's a bit fiddly here because obviously the 2 sides are loose, but you can see as I'm pulling them closer, that's going to bring those points together. And what I then actually want to do is the cord that's coming from the top is going underneath. It's going to be the working cord. So just kind of hold onto your piece. Then we're going to make a double half hitch with that working cord around the holding cord here. So that's just the first one, and if I just pull this tight, you can see it's going to pull them close together. And then I'm just going to make the other half of it to make it a full double half hitch around that same holding cord. Now before I tighten the second half, I always like to re-tighten the first half, because it will usually come open a bit, as you can see, because it's not connected completely yet. So I just re-tighten that first half. I kind of like to put my fingers on it, and then I tighten the other half to make sure it becomes tight together without any gap between them. And that's the one side, and now it's much easier to work with because they're already tightened together and it's not going to just come apart now. Now move it around to the other side, and basically we want to do the exact same thing. So find your cords first of all. Same principle. We have 2 on the bottom half there, and then 2 from the top one. So I'm going to take the one furthest to the point, coming right from the point there, from the bottom, that crosses over the one that's coming from the point on the top. And you just do the same thing, make a double half hitch with the one below, coming from the top there. So basically we're just kind of continuing the row that was in those last little sections, but to connect them. So you can see that is now the same as the other side, and it's pretty seamless in the sense that you still get that same kind of pattern just continued around. So that's how you connect them. So this is not going to come apart now, and we've now completed the full ring band. So really all that's left to do now is finish off all these cords, and obviously it's the same with the ones that we just used. So I'm just going to show you how I like to do that. Now because I'm using a synthetic cord, I'm going to be using a lighter here to singe off the ends. If you're using a natural cord, you're going to have to use glue. So what you would do is just basically put glue around where the cords are coming out and then cut off the excess. But what I'm going to do is, like I said, use the lighter to singe off the ends and also secure them in place, because this is a synthetic cord. So I'm just going to grab somewhere you can kind of see what I'm doing here, and it's the same for all of them. Just get the other ones out of the way so I can grab hold of them. And then on the top here, obviously there's quite a few, so wherever I can I sometimes like to take 2, or you could just do one at a time, it doesn't really matter. Then I want to take my scissors and cut off the excess, so we only have literally like about 1 or 2 millimeters left from where the cord is coming out from in the piece. So you can see we have the little ends there. Then I'm going to take my lighter, and obviously be careful with this because it is a naked flame and it does get hot. Let's get the others out of the way so I don't burn them prematurely. I'll singe them down. But then just bring it around here. I use the lighter just literally to singe down those ends, basically melt them. And then I like to just push them in as well, because that seals them in place as well. So however you need to hold it. It's a matter of singeing them down, like I said, melting them, because obviously it gets rid of the excess, but it also secures them in place, so any knots or anything won't be coming undone. So you can either use your fingers to push it in, but if you don't really like that, if it gets too hot, just use the lighter to help push that in on the side. And then you just want to go around all of it and do that to all of the cords. So now that I got rid of all the cords here, I've then finished my ring completely. And then we have this little cluster of the rosebuds. At the top is a feature, and then around the sides here we have the ring band, also quite decorative, and obviously especially adding in those extra beads. And it looks like that. And then on the finger you have that cluster of the rosebuds sitting nicely, being the main feature. But it's also still nice and comfortable to wear because obviously it's all made out of cord. So that's what it looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial here. Do check out my other tutorials on my channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.